It's the first day of 2023 in Melbourne, Australia, and I've just put in a little garden, but can I tell you, it's a myth that Melbourne's always cold, because when we get summer, it heats up fast. It may not be as hot as some other places, but it's pretty hot for us. So this morning it has jumped from 18 degrees Celsius to 27 degrees Celsius in 2 hours in the time I've been in the garden. So that's my contribution for this morning. I've taken a lot of little plants and little seedlings, and even seedlings that aren't really ready to be planted out, and I've planted it out. Yes, it's going to be a hot day, but I'm going to show you what I did to get around that, and hopefully they'll be okay. But it was unavoidable. Sometimes we have situations where we have to do these things because, you know, they're going to die if we don't anyhow, and that is when we go away. And I do have a house sitter that is a gardener, but I didn't want to overwhelm my house sitter with all the things that I've got going on right now. I was just happy to have my garden watered while I'm away, while it's hot. So I've tried to get everything out that had been started, and any seeds I want to get them in, and so it just really only has to be watered. So come with me and I'll show you what we did today. Okay, so this is what I do to make sure I don't miss anything when I plant up, because I go off in my little world and I don't have tags out with me, so I've got to tag stuff up later so to record. So I've planted out some little baby seedlings earlier than I would in a situation that I wouldn't, but I've got a house sitter that I don't want to overwhelm with gardening jobs, so I'm just putting all my seedlings out and hoping for the best. Alright, so first of all, spaghetti squash. I'm pretty sure that was old seed again, and I put it in a pot, this pot, and within 2-3 weeks it started to outgrow the pot. There was roots coming at the bottom, so what I've done here, it's very hard ground. Very hard ground. So I got the pitchfork, and pressed in, stood on it, tried to lift up aerate the soil a bit, and then I dug a bit of a hole here, removed the weeds. Then I threw over some sand and a bit of azomite. And then I put, that's a volcanic dust, it's a rock dust that's got lots of beautiful things in it for the soil, and I've only just started using it. Then I put cardboard, and I've tucked the cardboard down beside the fence and around, so I'm hoping that no weeds will grow up from the edge. So the cardboard's tucked down about 1/2 foot, then come back like that. Then I've put some good potting mix over it. I've put the plant in. I put a hole in the cardboard where this is going, and any bigger pot, like I did that with the beans over there. And then I built up all the potting mix around it. Then I've used a bag of a manure mix, so it's a kind of half potting mix, half manure, and sprinkled it around just about an inch of it all around over the cardboard. Then I've put on top of that is potting mix. Then I've planted into it some hyacinth beans, which I was going to put out the front. I just don't have time. I need to get them in the ground, and I should have planted them direct. So I've popped them in quickly. I've built up the potting mix around them. Then I've got some punnets that, I've planted the seedlings out, and you've just got those late comers that are kind of struggling to survive in the cells. So that's a sage that really needs a chance at life. And there's 3 sorrels left over from planting. This is Celtis, and I know that's too close for it, but it's been growing in sand and I haven't had a chance to put it in, so I've just whacked it in just so it's got a place. And let me think, that was corn salad in there. and some purslane. I had a punnet purslane I grew, so I've divided it up. I'm going to put that in my wall garden near my door, and I've put a couple over near the chook shed, hoping that it'll kind of creep and grow in through the chook wire and for the chooks, because it's very, very healthy for us and them. And a Russell lupin, a late comer in the punnet. And I also, just through the cells that looked empty or could have died from being in there too long, I've just thrown them around the other sage. You never know if the seeds might just still grow in there. You can always move them later. Okay, so that's that bed ready to go before I go away soon. Got about a week for it to settle in. Now what I'm going to do, because it's hot days, today I'm just going to cover it with card, like put a shelter over it, so it doesn't get too hot. And I might even just use cardboard, and I know that's not going to give it any sun, but I want it to settle in for a day before, or even a day or two before I let it out into 30 to 40 degree Celsius heat. So that one, and then I'll mulch too. I'll mulch and be careful around the seedlings, so I'll get some sugarcane mulch on it. And this is how easy it is to forget when you planted so many things at once. That's some holly basil in there. Tiny, tiny ones. I've left some in the pot I was starting it in, and popped the pot out of the hothouse under the apple tree for now, but I've put a couple in there and I'll just see how they go. So that should keep the sun off it just for a day until they settle. Those ones won't mind. So that's where I put the other two purslanes, right near the babaco and the bean that is trying to grow. I'm getting a bit worried about it starting to climb now, because we haven't finished the chook pen, and I don't really want it to climb up there till we've got our wire on, and that could be a few weeks away. So it's these things, when you're trying to plant as much as you can, as quickly as you can in a time slot, they can run away from you. So I'm probably going to have to put something in there for it to grow up, which I think I know I've got something nice that I can put in there. Actually, I've got something beautiful I can put in there. It look nice. Yes, I'll show you that later. I had this pot that I don't know what's in it, or what was in it. I had geraniums growing in it and dying and growing and dying because the soil in it's just compacted or something. I can't even remember what I had in it originally, so I've just been sitting out in the yard, not doing much, and I thought I'll get to it one day, I'll pull the soil out, I'll plant something in it and renew it. But then I went, oh my goodness, I've been thinking, where am I going to put my kangkong, which is a swamp-loving, waterways kind of plant that can grow in just water. But it loves boggy, wet, swampy environments. So I got all the leftover, the unsuccessful plants that have keeled over or not grown, just threw all of that potting mix and seed raising mix and sand and everything into there, and I've planted them in there. So that can get as wet as it likes now, and I'll have a plant that appreciates it, and I don't have to tip it all out and do all that. Bit of garden problem solving. And I'll just putting a little bit of mulch. Well, it's just some sugar cane mulch that I had in a tray to keep moist underneath some pots to keep the moisture in. Just throw that in there too, and start to clean up the hothouse, because it's really hot now. So yes, they are swimming in there, but that will eventually soak in. It's going to be very hot today, so I'm hoping that they'll be happy in there. If you do have a bed in your greenhouse or your hothouse and it's getting too hot, the weather's heating up, and you're going away for any period of time and somebody's looking after your plants, it's a good idea to get them out, get them under the shade of a tree or in a protected place on the south side of buildings, somewhere where it's not going to get heated up with the afternoon sun and burnt to a crisp. So try and work in the shade while you're doing all this, and keep the water up, and go away knowing that you've done all you can for your plants, and whoever's looking after them isn't going to be frazzled as well as the plants being frazzled in the heat trying to keep up with your garden. The last thing we want is to go away and be worrying about our plants. So enjoy your vacations, enjoy your garden, and I'll see you next time.